I overheard a conversation that changed everything. I wasn't looking for trouble that night. It found me. The kitchen clock read 11:47 p.m., and I was curled up on the couch with a book I hadn't been paying attention to for at least half an hour. Michael had stepped out onto the balcony with his phone, claiming he needed fresh air. Normally, I'd have let him have his space, but something in the way he grabbed his phone so quickly, like it might burn him if I asked to see it, had left a splinter in my thoughts. I padded to the kitchen for water, the book still open in my hand. The balcony door was cracked open just enough for the night breeze to slip through. And then I heard it. His voice. Softer than I'd ever heard it. Different. No, I can't stop thinking about you. I keep replaying last night. The glass slipped in my hand, clinking against the counter. I froze, pressing myself against the wall, hidden from view. He laughed, that low, private laugh he used to save for me. You know exactly what you do to me. I couldn't breathe when you walked away. God, I wanted to. A pause. A sigh. I could hear the smile in his voice. I didn't need the rest of the sentence. My mind filled in every blink. Images rushed in. Michael's hands on my skin, the warmth of his breath, the way he used to look at me when the world didn't exist beyond our bedroom. Only now, those images didn't belong to us anymore. They belonged to her. Whoever she was. I gripped the counter so tightly my knuckles burned, my ears strained for more, even as my chest begged me to stop listening. You're addictive, he whispered. I wish I could be with you right now. I hate having to sneak away like this. Something inside me split. I thought of our wedding day, of the promises he made while my grandmother's necklace rested on my collarbone. I thought of the slow Sunday mornings, the way we'd move together without speaking, how his fingers would find mine under the table. All of it now contaminated by this secret I never asked to overhear. When he came back inside, his expression was casual, too casual. He kissed the top of my head like nothing had happened, like he hadn't just burned our marriage to the ground with a few hushed words into a phone. I smiled back. I even laughed at something stupid he said about the neighbor's dog. And all the while, a calmness I'd never known settled over me. Because I knew, and he didn't know I knew. That night, I lay beside him in bed, listening to his breathing, feeling the heat of his body an inch from mine. I didn't cry, not yet. I let my mind wander to the woman's voice I hadn't heard but could almost imagine. I pictured her laughing, him looking at her the way he used to look at me. And with every imagined detail, the space between us grew colder. By morning, I had already decided. This was the last day we'd wake up as husband and wife. It's strange how betrayal doesn't feel like a lightning strike. It's slower, like a crack in the foundation you only notice when the house finally caves in. I overheard a conversation that night, and it didn't just change everything, it ended everything. Part 2, the morning after. The sun came in through the curtains, soft and golden, like it had no idea my world had shifted 6 inches off its axis. Michael was already up, in the kitchen, humming to himself as he made coffee. For a moment, I watched him from the bedroom doorway. The way he poured sugar into his mug, how he always shook the spoon twice before setting it down. Those familiar motions hit me like a bruise I didn't know I had. He turned and caught me looking. "Morning, beautiful," he said, smiling the same smile that once made my stomach flip. I managed something that might have passed for affection. "Morning." We sat at the table and I listened to him talk about work, the traffic, and a new movie he thought we should see this weekend. The whole time, I kept thinking about his voice on the balcony the night before. Softer, hungrier, more alive than it had sounded for me in months. Halfway through breakfast, he reached across the table and brushed a crumb from the corner of my mouth. That used to make my heart race. Now, it made me want to flinch. I sipped my coffee, nodded in the right places, smiled when I should have, and kept my secret. Flashback. 2 years earlier. We were in Florence, a tiny apartment with a balcony barely big enough for two. I had been brushing my hair when Michael came up behind me, pressing a kiss to my bare shoulder. "Stay in tonight," he whispered, his hands finding my waist. Back then, when he looked at me, it felt like I was the only thing keeping him alive. Back to now. I left for work earlier than usual, telling him I had a meeting. In reality, I sat in my car for 20 minutes staring at the steering wheel, breathing in and out until my hands stopped shaking. I wasn't ready to confront him yet. Not yet. I needed proof, something I could hold in my hands when the words finally came out. But there was another reason, too. Some dark, masochistic part of me wanted to see how far he'd go if he thought I was still in the dark. That night, I'd listen again, and I'd be ready. I made dinner that night, roast chicken, his favorite, and opened a bottle of red we'd been saving. If Michael noticed the extra effort, he didn't say. We ate, we laughed, we shared stories about our day. I studied his face while he talked, the way his eyes crinkled when he smiled, how his hands moved when he was excited. Everything so familiar. So rehearsed. After dessert, I leaned back in my chair, pretending to stretch. "I think I'm going to turn in early tonight. Long day." He kissed my forehead. "Get some rest, baby." I waited 10 minutes after I closed the bedroom door. Then I slipped out, barefoot, moving silently down the hall. I crouched behind the half-open door to the balcony, phone in hand, recording. And there it was. As if on cue. His voice dropped, the tone instantly different from the one he'd just used with me. "Hey, yeah, she's asleep. I wish I was with you instead. Last night was..." He stopped, chuckled under his breath. "God, you're trouble." I pressed my hand over my mouth. He went on, describing things I didn't want to hear. Not graphically, but enough to make my stomach knot. Places they'd gone. The way she'd smiled at him. The smell of her perfume. It wasn't just lust. It was tenderness, intimacy, the kind you can't fake. When he finally said goodbye, promising to call her in the morning, I was already in bed, the recording saved, my breathing steady. Flashback, the day we met. A bookstore downtown, I was flipping through a travel guide when he'd leaned over and said, "If you're looking for the best gelato in Rome, that's not the right book." We talked for an hour. By the time we left, it felt like I'd known him all my life. Back to now. The man in that bookstore wouldn't have done this to me, but the man in my kitchen right now just had. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, rehearsing the moment I would end it, and this time, I wouldn't cry. The next morning, I was up before him. Coffee brewed, sunlight spilling across the kitchen table, everything looking painfully ordinary. When Michael walked in, still sleepy, I smiled and slid his cub toward him. "Morning," I said. He kissed my cheek. "You're in a good mood today." "I am," I replied. I slept well. And I had, strangely enough. Knowing what I knew, having proof in my phone, had given me a strange kind of calm. We sat across from each other, steam curling from our cups. I let the silence stretch before I reached for my phone, tapped my screen, and pressed play. His own voice filled the kitchen. "Hey, yeah, she's asleep. I wish I was with you instead. Last night was..." Michael's head snapped up. I didn't stop the recording. I let him hear every word, Every laugh, every sigh. The way he'd said, "You're trouble," like it was the sweetest compliment in the world. When it ended, I set the phone down gently. "Do you know what the worst part is?" He didn't answer. His face was pale, eyes darting anywhere but mine. "It's not the cheating," I continued, my voice steady. "It's that I recognize that voice. The softness, the warmth. That's how you used to talk to me, before I became background noise." He tried to speak, but I raised a hand. "Don't explain, don't deny it. This isn't a conversation. This is me telling you it's over." The words landed like stones in the quiet room. I stood, grabbed my keys, and walked toward the door. Behind me, he said my name, softly, desperately. I didn't turn around. 6 months later. Sometimes I still think about the night on the balcony, the way the air smelled of rain, the hum of the street below, the exact moment my life split into before and after. I don't hate him anymore, but I can't forget how quickly love can be replaced, how a voice can change when it's speaking to someone else. I overheard a conversation that night. It didn't just change everything. It made me remember who I was before him and who I refuse to be after.